Let's take a look at the accessory organs and the ducts. So if we think back to what the accessory organs are, we've already talked about the salivary glands, but these are going to be the ones that are going to empty their secretions here into the lower GI tract. So they are going to be the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. So they are all going to, well, the bile is going to be made in the liver, and then it's going to move to the gallbladder where it's going to be stored and concentrated. And the pancreas is going to release different enzymes and an alkaline fluid to make up pancreatic juice. But they're all basically going to empty into the small intestine at roughly the same spot. So this over here is showing something called the biliary tree or the biliary apparatus. So what it's showing is how these contents are kind of coming together and emptying into the small intestine. So let's take a look here. We are going to have the, if you imagine like the liver that's going to be right here, if I could draw on the liver, and that is definitely not the shape of the liver. That looks like a kidney, but it's a really rough, fast picture that I had to draw. So with the liver, when the liver makes bile, the bile is going to empty into the left and the right hepatic ducts. So those two ducts are going to merge together to form the common hepatic duct. And from there, we also have the cystic duct. The cystic duct is going to be the duct that is going to drain from the gallbladder. And from there, it is going to merge with that common hepatic duct I just mentioned, and they are going to form the common bile duct here. As you can see, the common bile duct goes all the way down, and it is going to go in and merge with the main pancreatic duct, as you can see. Those are going to merge. And if you take a look, you have something called the hepatopancreatic ampulla, which is going to be right in here. That's going to be where that merging is going to kind of take place. And we are also going to have a sphincter in here. So this sphincter is going to be controlled, which we'll talk about later, by some hormones. And they are going to empty into the small intestine, specifically the duodenum. It's going to be released through this major duodenal papilla right here. So the sphincter is going to regulate the movement, but the fluid is going to come out of the papilla. So as you can see, they are going to empty right in there. You also have this accessory pancreatic duct that can also secrete some pancreatic juice, but as you can see, it's pretty small, so it's going to contribute to a small portion of it. Most of it's going to go through that main the main pancreatic duct there. So let's first start with the liver. The liver, as you can see, it has many different functions. And a lot of these functions we'll actually take a look at in chapter 27. This one, we're specifically looking at its digestive component, and it is going to be making bile. So this is where bile is actually formed, is going to be here in the liver. The liver is going to be the largest internal organ. So what we're taking a look at is the back portion here of the liver. So just taking a look at the rough, gross anatomy of it at the back portion, you can also see where that gallbladder sits. It's going to be on that back or the posterior portion of the liver. Other things that you might remember, that hepatic artery that's going to, of course, feed the liver. But we also have the hepatic portal vein that is also going to deliver blood as well. And these are very different because one of them is going to be deoxygenated and one of them is going to be oxygenated. The hepatic portal vein, if you remember from our blood vessel chapter, is going to be the one that delivers all of that deoxygenated but nutrient-rich blood from all the digestive organs, and it's going to go here to the liver. So this is another thing that it is going to do, which we'll take a look at more in chapter 27, and it is going to go in and kind of sort through the nutrients that is going to be delivered here. So let's take a look at the histology of the liver a little bit. The book goes into it a little bit more than what you really need to for lecture, that is. So this isn't showing the entire thing, but the liver is going to be composed of these nice little hexagonal or polyhedral shaped lobules. And if you remember what hexagonal is, see if I can draw it here. Hexagonal is going to be 1, 2, 3. I think I completely messed that up. So is going to be our 6 sides. So that is going to be that hexagonal shape that it's going to be formed in, these little lobules. So they're all going to kind of sit right next to one another. If I can draw another one, it's pretty bad. So, but they are going to all kind of sit together, and they are actually kind of equal shape, with central vein being right smack dab in the middle. There's actually a picture in the book that I don't know why I didn't put in here, but that is what it is showing there. So as you can see, all of these little cells right here that are going to be making up the liver, those are hepatocytes. So anytime you see this root word here, H-E-P-A-T, just think liver, because that's exactly what it is. So hepatocyte is, of course, going to make up liver cells. Other things that we're going to be taking a look at here in a second on the next slide are going to be these hepatic sinusoids right here. As you can see, here's the branch of that hepatic portal vein. So we'll talk about how those nutrients come in. And as you can see, there's some of the nutrients. And eventually they are going to go through those sinusoids and make it into that central vein. Also, these little bile canaliculi, these little green things right here, is going to be what conducts the bile that is produced by those hepatocytes, and it's going to send it into the hepatic duct that we just looked at. So let's take a look at these hepatic sinusoids. So this is kind of a closer look, as you can see. So there's that portal vein, and there is going to be those sinusoids. So if you remember back whenever we talked about the different types of capillaries that we have in the body, sinusoids is one of them. It's going to be the one larger gaps in between the cells. So they are thin-walled capillaries, but with large gaps. And the reason why, it's because of the fact that, of course, you know, we are making large plasma proteins in here that need to kind of squeeze through and get to the main blood supply, but also nutrients are going to be absorbed here as well. And also these hepatic sinusoids is where the hepatic portal veins and the arterial blood is going to mix in here as well. You're also going to have these comfort cells. The book refers to them as reticuloendothelial cells. It's actually on the other picture that I showed. But what these are going to be macrophages. So these are going in and engulfing any microbes that could be found inside of the bloodstream here. So bile is going to be produced or synthesized in the liver and secreted by the liver. And really what bile is, it's an alkaline fluid because of the fact that there is going to be, of course, bicarb ions. So it's going to be a watery mixture of bicarb ions. It's also going to be these bile salts, which we'll talk about how these bile salts are going to be the ones that are responsible for help break down lipids. Also, bile pigments are going to be in here. These are going to be bilirubins that are going to give that coloration of bile, which is going to be that kind of greenish coloration that we get there. Cholesterol, the lecithin, mucin as well. So we'll talk about these. That lecithin is going to be a phospholipid, and we'll talk about its role at helping digest lipids as well. So let's take a look at cirrhosis. This is going to be where we have some kind of damage to the hepatocytes, and whenever they're damaged, they're not replaced by healthy hepatocytes, they're replaced by fibrous scar tissue instead. What happens is those comfort cells, those reticuloendothelial cells, secrete collagen, and that is going to be that kind of fibrous tissue that is going to be replaced. So instead of having these healthy hepatocytes, you are going to have scar tissue instead. So it's very much like whenever you have a heart attack, or whenever you have, heart cells that die and it's replaced by scar tissue, which is not good because you need it to be replaced by the organ cells that are lost. And they can be lost by a number of different reasons. They can be damaged by chronic alcoholism because the liver is going to be kind of that detoxifier. It's going to help kind of detoxify a lot to break down a lot of the drugs or toxins that is going to come through the body. Liver diseases like hepatitis, the most frequent ones are going to be hepatitis B and C. So those are all different chronic injuries that can happen that can cause cirrhosis. So So what happens here is a lot of times because you have that fibrous scar tissue, it goes in and compresses the blood vessels, and that is going to actually increase the blood pressure there in the hepatic portal system. So some of the symptoms are going to be, at first, cirrhosis can be asymptomatic, and then later on, once there has been a lot of damage done already to the liver, you're going to start to see some of the symptoms like fatigue and weight loss, nausea, since the liver lies in that upper right quadrant, then you can also have pain there as well. Some more advanced ones is going to be jaundice, mainly because of the fact that this is going to be where the bile salts and things like that is going to be recycled, broken down and recycled. But since the liver's not working properly, then that is going to be a problem. The bile salts tend to start to collect underneath the skin, and that is what's going to cause that jaundice. And it also causes extreme itching as well. So that's another sign or symptom of cirrhosis. Also, edema and ascites, mainly because of the fact that since you don't have these normal hepatocytes, then you're not able to make the albumin that you need to, which is going to be one of those key colloids that is going to help with reabsorption in the blood vessels. So since you don't have that colloid that's helping reabsorb the fluid back into the capillaries, it all stays out in the tissues, and that's where edema and ascites, that collection of fluid in the abdominal pelvic cavity, is going to come from. And of course, since the liver, the hepatocytes are lost, you cannot break down the toxins and drugs like you need to, so you do get a lot of toxins accumulated there as well.